Yeah, I'm carving my Thanksgiving Day eyeball. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Gobble, gobble.
Gobble, gobble. Okay. So, this is your eyeball. Okay. This here is the cornea, which becomes cloudy after death. Okay. So, normally it's crystal clear. Okay. If you look kind of around this, and I've removed a whole lot of fat from around the eyeball. Okay. This here is the optic nerve. Okay, you'll notice that's coming out of the back of the eyeball.
Is it similar to the humans in terms of fat?
Probably not as, we don't have quite as much fat.
But there is a fat there.
Yeah, we have definitely fat around our eyeball, kind of cushioning everything in there. Yeah. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take our scalpel and maybe poke a little hole. Oh, perfect. Okay, and I'm going to use my scissor to continue cutting so that I don't cut any of the structures inside. Okay. It doesn't. These don't smell.
Yeah, it doesn't smell like kernel dye.
Juicy.
Very. Okay. So now what we have. Oh, very pretty.
Oh,
okay,
wow.
Do you see this jelly?
Yeah, that's...
Okay, that jelly is called vitreous humor. That's the jelly.
That's the stuff that's tasting weird.
It's like one of those little lychee pop, like jelly things that you pop in your mouth, except it's an eyeball. No, oh, geez. Okay, so this jelly stuff, this is all...
That makes me feel awkward now.
You ate an eyeball.
Yeah.
Right, so yeah, it's jelly-like. Okay, so that's the vitreous humor. Okay, vitreous humor is found in everybody's eyeball. It kind of keeps everything sort of in place. Okay, you see this membrane back here, which is like beautifully preserved. You see this membrane?
Like blue.
No, it's the membrane in front of the blue part. You see that like yellow membrane?
Mm-hmm.
That's probably the most important part of your eyeball. Okay, that's your retina. I'm going to go through that.
That's like the matrix.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
That's what it is right there. You can see even some of the blood vessels. I'm going to go over it in just a second. I'm going to go to this side where there's a little bit more of the vitreous humor that I removed. Okay, it's a little bit of the retina in there. So that's a little bit of the retina right there.
Okay.
And that's the little lens, isn't it?
Yep. And then right here, this is the lens, which I'm removing, and everything is kind of sort of attached. So as I feel it coming out, that's the lens. Anybody has gloves, they want to touch it, okay, because it's really, really firm, right? It's really, really hard. Your lens,
like a marble.
What your lens does is your lens helps accommodate the light rays, and it's going to go shorter, wider, right, skinnier, fatter, to make sure that the information hits the back of your eyeball,
the retina.
at your retina, at the right place. Okay. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in just a second when we look at one of the models. I'm gonna have it. Okay, so I'm flipping this inside out so you can see it a little bit better. Okay. So right here, the opening, right? Remember, this is the cornea. Yes. This is the pupil. The opening is the pupil. Okay. The area right around it, which might be a little hard to see, but do you see that it's a muscle that does like this? Okay, it's a muscle that does like that. That's the iris. Okay, the iris. Orbitus? And then you see the iris, and then you see this here that has, it looks like a kind of a sunburst. Has almost like little frillies, right? Okay, that's the ciliary body. Okay, the ciliary body. Okay, so that's going to hold your lens. Your lens is attached to that ciliary body, and the ciliary body will pull and relax and pull and allow for and adjust the lens. Okay, so you can see that, and then the cornea. Just to explain a little bit more about the cornea is very clear. So when you do something like laser surgery, like laser eye surgery, what you're going to do is they're going to take a piece of your cornea, they're going to slice it, open it, and they're going to and they're going to shape it to what your glasses would be doing. Okay, so they're going to shape it to what your glasses should be doing. Because what's happening, bring me one of the models of the eye. Okay, what's happening is through your pupil and your lens, what you're doing is the light rays are going into your eye, right, and they are being brought together so that they can hit the back of your retina. Okay, so this is your retina, right? Yeah, that one's fine. Okay, and I might have you open it up for me to touch it with my dirty hand. Okay, so your retina, if you can take that. the vitreous, right? The vitreous humor. That's the lens, okay? You have parts coming out here all over the place. Okay, so you got your lens, and you got this is the vitreous jelly, right? I guess you can sort of guess what that would be, right? Since that was filling the space. Actually, this is not so good on the inside. This is the ciliary body. Oh, look, I got some jelly stuff on that. Yay! Okay, so the ciliary body, you can see the iris. In this case, the iris is brown, okay? And then the cornea is cracked. So he needs some laser eye surgery. Okay. Give me. This one. That one. Yeah. Because that one has what I'm looking for on the back. Okay. All right. So what I was going to try to talk about that this other one doesn't have. Okay. Is the retina, right? All the way in the back of your retina. Okay. You're going to have a particular area on your retina called the fovea centralis. The fovea centralis is where you have the most abundance of photoreceptors. Your photoreceptors, you have two types. You have black and white photoreceptors, which are called rods, and you have cones, which are your color photoreceptors. And there's three types of cones, those for green, those for blue, and those for red. And so people who are colorblind, they don't have the red and green, okay? They don't have the red and green cones. All right, so in the fovea centralis, which is going to be located right there, okay, in the back of the eyeball, which is the retina, this is where all of the rays of light need to converge perfectly so that you get a crisp, clear picture. If you do not have, you need glasses because your vision is not perfect, that means that you are either farsighted, which means that the image is falling behind the retina, okay, where the crispest, clearest picture would be falling behind the retina, or if you're nearsighted, it's going to be before the retina. So what you need is another lens in front of your eye, or your contacts, that would help you get the rays right to the fovea centralis so that you have the most amount of clear vision, right? So in surgery, when you get laser eye surgery, what you're going to do is you're going to cut the cornea so that the cornea is shaped exactly the way that your glasses would be. So it makes your cornea do it. But your cornea heals very quickly, okay? You do that over lunch, and you come back and you're like, wow, I can see, So it's not something that takes very long, okay? So that was just a little bit of a primer on your eye and kind of what it does. Okay, so this other area right here, okay, do you see what everything kind of comes together on the retina right there? Okay, that everything kind of goes whoop, okay? So in your retina is all of this that you see here, this little tissue, okay, that I can move with my finger, that's all made of 3 layers of cells. There's the photoreceptors, which are further back, and then there's your bipolar cells, which are bipolar shaped, right? And then there are your ganglion cells. So those 3 layers of cells are what make up, that tissue, okay? And so the ganglion cells then have axons. And those axons are all going to come together, okay? And they are going to go into the optic nerve and make the optic nerve. So your optic nerve is made out of the axons of your ganglion cells of your retina, okay? And they go in this little area called the optic disc, which is right here, okay? The optic disc. And the optic disc on here would be right there. You see that? Now, so you see all the little blood vessels coming out. So whenever the doctor gives you a picture of the inside of your eye, which I got one when I went to see the doctor in like May, then he shows you then is all of the blood vessels coming out, and then you have a little dark spot. That's your fovea centralis, okay? All right, so that's kind of cool. So that's your retina. So let me go through these parts here really quick again as a review. Okay, so this yellow tissue in the back is called the retina. Underneath it is something called the choroid, which is very, very colorful like that, the blue. Okay, it's called the choroid. Okay, you can see here that's your optic disc right there. Okay, that's your optic disc. Okay, you can see then on the optic nerve. Okay, which is going to be from your ganglion cells, okay? You have your ciliary body, which is that stuff that's right on the outside, that, okay? You have your iris, which would be this muscle right there, okay? And then you have your pupil, which is the space. So if it said space, you would say pupil. If it's pointing through here and would say, like, structure, then the structure would be the cornea, okay? So it would be the cornea. So it would be the iris.
The iris is like the shutter?
Yes. The iris
And
is
then
that
the ciliary body just keeps the
lens in place. So the lens, which is right here, okay? So when I took the lens out, I had to kind of separate it, and I had to separate it from the ciliary body. Okay, so the lens
color is in the iris?
in the iris. It's coloration of the iris. People with brown eyes, for example, because people with blue eyes are just like they lack a lot of pigment. It's a very, very little pigment. But people with brown eyes, they have pigment that's made and is deposited onto that muscle. Okay, so it'd be like this. You see how the ciliary body is going to be attached to that. All right, so that's your eyeball. Okay, I am going to take my gloves off, and I'm going to identify some of the structures on the models. Okay. Not that I've already touched them all. Whatever. You keep touching it. All right. So here's the iris, right in the pupil, right in the middle. Okay. You can see the insides of the ciliary body. Okay. I don't know what the lens is, but it looks something like this. Okay. So that's the lens. And then of course your optic disc and your fovea centralis, which is right there. Okay. The optic disc. Let me tell you a little bit more about the optic disc. The optic disc is a blind spot. Okay. So that in your textbook, it tells you there's a little test where you can test for the blind spot. It has a little X and a little dot. Okay, if you move it at a certain, if you stare at the X, and in your periphery, just keep in mind where the dot is, and you keep pulling it away from you, at some point the dot's going to disappear.
Yeah.
And the dot disappears because you've hit your blind spot, which is where the optic disc is, which there can't be any photoreceptors where your optic disc is, okay? So that's your blind spot. Because it's somewhere like right kind of around here, this area right here, okay? So what happens though? Because you know you don't see a dark spot in your visual field. Your brain fills in the information and just assumes that what's around it is what's there. That's why the dot disappears, but the white paper is still there, okay? So that's kind of cool. All right, so that's your optic disc, okay? Let me kind of put one of these back together if we can find the top and the bottom so we can identify some of the muscles of our eyeball, okay? So this,
that's the side.
okay, orienting on my eyeball. Okay, so your eye has 6 muscles, okay, that are going to move it around. These 6 muscles are pretty easy named. They're also going to be controlled by cranial nerve number 3, which is the ocular motor nerve, cranial nerve number 4, which is the trochlear nerve, and cranial nerve number 6, which is the abducens nerve. So the ocular motor nerve takes care of 4 of the muscles, okay, which is the superior rectus, I believe this is the the medial rectus, okay, the inferior rectus muscle, and then the inferior oblique muscle. Okay, those are the ones taken care of by the ocular motor nerve. Okay, so superior rectus, the medial rectus muscle, the inferior oblique. This is an oblique muscle that kind of goes sideways like that, and then the inferior rectus muscle. So these. Okay, now your trochlear nerve. Your trochlear nerve is going to take care of the superior oblique muscle. Okay, and then your abducens nerve is going to take care of the lateral rectus muscle. Okay, so the lateral rectus muscle. Right, so those are your 6 muscles: superior, inferior rectus, medial, lateral rectus, and then you have your oblique, superior, and inferior oblique. Okay, so there you go. There's your eyeball. And somebody bring me an ear. Milton, yeah, bring me an ear. You're gonna keep filming for the ear.
Came out of this one here.
Let me stop it. Okay, say bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Have a nice Thanksgiving.